Inspired talks of Swami Vivekananda, Pranam Mantra. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suray Sachit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So it was Sunday, August 4th. Swamiji was talking to his disciples. Swamiji had wanted to manufacture some great yogis, and that's how some of his disciples, admirers, had gone to this cottage in Thousand Island Park. And Swamiji was pouring his heart out. I always tell my friends and those who want to understand spirituality to read this book. If you read and understand inspired talks to whatever extent, it will take you to such a huge journey, such a great journey into spirituality. If you have some preparations from coming from the past, you will get awestruck by the majesty of these words. Yes, some preparation is needed. Of course, that's needed in every branch of knowledge. Like if you want to study real biology, real chemistry, you have to go to the university. Uh, Schools and high schools, etc. They only prepare you for that. Schools are actually the preparing ground for the college. Real education comes in college only, of a subject. So Swamiji begins by quoting from the Bible. These are the words from St. Paul. It says, whom the ignorant worship, him I preach unto thee. See, very profound statement. Actually, Bible is a very profound work. And nowadays, because of this religious intolerance that we have all around, it's becoming so difficult, even for me to quote from the Bible. Like, we get condemned and heavily criticized simply because we are quoting from the Bible. Now, what can you say? Ignorance breeds fanaticism, and fanaticism is the bane of any religion. Now, this statement by coming from St. Paul, whom the ignorant worship, him I preach unto thee. Those of you might have studied Kenopanishad, like those who understand Bengali. In Bengali, we have already covered Kenopanishad and we intend to cover Kenopanishad in English too. There's a very powerful statement there in Kenopanishad. Na idam yadidam upasate. Atman is that. Atman is that which is the source of everything. It's the consciousness of everything. It is not what people worship. Because when people worship, they worship through their minds. And the moment there is an intervention of mind, so you may be saying that you don't worship statue, idols, etc. You may say that you don't worship a personal God, or you may say you do not worship an impersonal God. There are all kinds. The kingdom of God is large enough to accommodate all these various sects. There's place for everyone in this kingdom of God. So Kenopanishad says that when people worship, they limit the object of worship. The object of worship, I mean God, which is not a right expression. However, when God is worshipped in whatever form, by the common man, we are not talking about the sages and the greats. Say, when you are worshipping God as Ram and Krishna, there are great sages who understand what they are worshipping, whom they are worshipping. But a common man limits. Now, just to think that a common man, now we don't mean to say that an illiterate person is not a religious person. In fact, illiterate person may be extremely religious. And when I say common man, I am using this expression from our common vocabulary. So, for example, Sri Ramakrishna himself, he was not literate in the sense that we understand. But as you all know, that he was the ultimate personification of whole of religions and whole of entire spirituality. We mean to say that usually when we worship, usually, so for example, if you go to North India, people have deep fascination for Hanumanji. Now, when they worship Hanumanji, do you really think that they understand what really Hanumanji stands for? They may quote one or two couplets, and those couplets might be beautiful, maybe composed by Tulsidas ji. But those words may be here, but never come down here to the heart. Never. When Jesus Christ, Lord Jesus, He's talking, when Sri Ramakrishna is talking, when Buddha is talking, they're talking about God. And the near ones who are listening to them, they get the feel. When you are near the fire, particularly blazing fire, you know that there is heat. As you move away from that source, the feeling of heat also reduces drastically. Now, Swamiji, in this discussion, he focuses on this I, whom the ignorant worship, him I, the real, preach unto thee. And worship by the ignorant, preaching by the knowledgeable. Now, when Sri Ramakrishna is preaching religion, when he's talking about Atman, when he's talking about Mother Kali, when he's talking about Sri Ram and others, he's talking about something else. When we are grasping something different. When your guru gives you mantra of a particular god, when you get your Easter, your guru means to say something, but you grasp something different. However, that's not very important. In fact, what really important is, forget what you understand. Let's see what our teachers meant. Books like Inspire Talks give us a clear picture of a thorough glance at what this real I is. Here we need to understand that the three very interesting things about I. Extremely interesting thing about I. In fact, instead of giving today's title as Worship Whom, we should have mentioned the real I. I comes in three different forms. Rather, we all should know three important aspects of I. There may be many aspects of I, but three aspects are very, very important and crucial to our understanding of religion. First is, once you have any living being, the moment you say that it's a living being, Sanskrit word for them is prani. Every living being has a sense of I. And that's why when you want to hurt a living being, tries to save itself. Now, there are, of course, cases of plants that are touch sensitive and photosensitive, etc. Of course, according to Hindu traditions, they also have life, but that life is pretty rudimentary. Let's focus just on the living beings, as we call them, or you can say, bit of evolved animals. Of course, if you go to the level of amoeba, even they have this power to try to save itself because there is this sense of I. Now, this sense of I creates abhinivesh. There's a Sanskrit word, abhinivesh. Abhinivesh means desire to live. You cling to life. You want to live. You don't want to die. You want to live. You don't want this I to be annihilated. Because it is you. You cannot accept yourself to be annihilated. In whatever form. In whatever form. That means you don't want to lose your wealth. You don't want to lose your security. You don't want to lose your beloved. You don't even want to lose your life. You don't want to lose your self respect. You don't want to lose your social standing. Because you feel that if that goes away, if really that goes away, you are gone. There's a wonderful shlok in Gita. Sambhavitasya chakritir marnadati richyate. For the well respected in the society, it's better to die than to face ignominy. If you become an object of laughter, if you become an object of contempt, it's better to die. For whom? For a well respected person. I'm slightly moving away from the main topic. I wish to tell you something very interesting. Never, never, ever corner a person. Don't squeeze the personality of a person to that extent where he may or she may feel that I have nothing more to lose. Because if a person, whatever one's gender, whatever one's position, if they think that they have lost everything, their self respect is gone or whatever is gone, now they will not hesitate to strike back. And when they strike back, it will be bad for you. We have a center at Mayavati. Most of you must be knowing about Mayavati. So we used to have cow shed at Mayavati. Probably they still have. And once an extremely vicious leopard attacked the cow shed, and no one was there, so no one could make out, and the cows were mooing. And then the cows are extremely docile, and they could do nothing about it. And then there was a bull. And he felt that it was cornered. And the bull charged so viciously at the leopard, the leopard was killed by the bull. Now that's pretty unusual. Push a person or a living being only to the point that he may not feel that he has lost everything or they have lost everything. Because they identified with something. The I-ness. Like in earlier times in India, our mothers, they used to identify themselves with quite a few things. One of them being children, husband, honor of the family. If if it came to losing any one of them, she would strike back and it would be bad. Ultimate was her own honor. In India, even today, the value of a woman's honor is extremely high. Extremely high. Those of you interested can listen to our Manusmriti talks. Extremely high. This Abhinivesh is not only about clinging to one's life, it's clinging to one's life, and also with anything, that is, anything by which he goes, extended personality. And that's why you might have heard of some moms going insane or badly depressed when she loses a child. Now, naturally, a person will try to protect his highness. That means Abhinivesh becomes so strong that you like to protect yourself from all sides. And on the other hand, it's the same I, which is Atman, which is Brahman, and which is worshipped by all. What an irony. The talks on this series, Inspired Talks, these talks should give you goosebumps. Just imagine the eye which is running after worldly things. A young man is running after a female, and the female snubs him, jilts him, he feels suicidal, or becomes aggressive. Okay, fine, I'll show the world. Surprisingly, it's the same eye. It's the same eye that is worshipped by the ignorant. It's the same eye that was preached by Sri Krishna in Gita. It's the same eye that's preached in the Upanishads. It's the same eye that was preached by Jesus. Can you believe it? Because we have been brought up, rather, we grew up in such an environment where I am different, the world is different, and God is different. I'm a puny little creature in this world. The world is always trying to crush me down. And I pray to God, and God is sometimes favorable to me, and at other times He's not favorable to me. And when He is not favorable, we think that either God is not listening to our prayers or that my prayers are not enough. If you read the words of some of these nuns who are in Christian monasteries, you will know that prayers are barely answered. So, prayers are barely answered. People go on justifying this and that. I read a joke. There was a lightning strike on a school, and the school building got demolished. And the kids were extremely happy that God has finally listened to our prayers. They're so happy. But there was one young student who was extremely pensive. The teacher asked him, "Come on, all the kids are so happy that school building is demolished and there won't be classes for some days. Why are you so pensive?" Says, "Sir, how come you continue to be alive?" See? So people have strange kind of prayers. People have strange kind of wishes. And when things become favorable, you are happy. And when do not become favorable, that means they continue to be the way they are, you become extremely upset and you feel that you should be doing more prayers. These are all childish things. These are all the products of absolutely childish mind. Like when we were kids, that's how we used to pray. Now, when you grow up and you do the same, continue doing the same thing, it only shows that your mental growth, your spiritual growth has not taken place. So, this idea that here I am, here is the world, and there is God. You just cannot get rid of this. As a kid, I grew up with these ideas. And when I grew up, this is the idea I found everywhere in the society. Today, after spending so many decades in the Ramakrishna mission, I'm not sure if it's gone completely. Well, but then hold of this idea of this trio slowly becoming weaker. Maybe someday it will go away. If there is one thing that I want in my life, is to see the unification of these three, nothing else. And that is what you should also pray for, unification of all these three: thy, the world, and the supreme. Because actually these three are one appearing as three. So this I, who appears as God, whom people worship, ignorant worship, I, who is the real God, or real Atman, real Brahman, is the same I that gets terribly poisoned by Abhinivesh and keeps on running after wealth and sex and fame and everything else that's there in the world. So, what's the goal of life? The goal of life is to reduce your Abhinivesh. See, I'm sure many of you must be hearing to many of the popular talks that are there on YouTube. And I'm also sure you must have read quite a few sacred books. You must have interacted with good minds who have good grasp over spirituality. And you must have a very good understanding of what is God and what is Advait and what is Vedanta and etc. etc. The interesting thing about all this is, which you might have heard, may not have heard, Vedanta preaches one simple thing. Abhinivesh covers the true I. Dilute this Abhinivesh. Burn down this Abhinivesh. As you burn down this Abhinivesh, clinging to life, the I will start becoming more and more clear. You will all start feeling that, oh, it's the same I and God. And then you realize that I alone exist. Aham Brahmasmi. The ultimate of Vedanta, Aham Brahmasmi, that Brahma is worshipped as God by the ignorant and is understood as giver of results in this world by the ignorant. Perfectly all right, nothing wrong with it. Problem with us is that I is so badly identified with the body, with our mind, with our extended personality in such a way that it's only Abhinivesh, Abhinivesh, Abhinivesh. And even if we let go of everything, you might have heard of that. People give up everything, their family ties, their belonging, and they go out in search of God. You may give up everything. You may go to the Himalayas. You may live only on the diet of, say, dry leaves and air. But will you be able to give up your Abhinivesh? Your clinging to life? It's very difficult, believe me, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And there's no easy way to get rid of this Abhinivesh. And that's why different religions preach various methods. Different sects preach various methods. For example, if you study Raj Yoga, talks, talks are there, you'll find that Raj Yoga preaches an entirely different process for enlightenment. But when we're talking about the path of enlightenment, we are actually talking about getting rid of this abhinivesh. There's nothing else. I am using the word abhinivesh because there is no equivalent word in English, clinging to life. There's only this I. The same I appears as God, whom the saints worship. It's the same I that appears as God, like milch cow, as worshipped by the commoners. It's the same I that appears as human beings running after this and that. What Swamiji is telling here is that, well, this is the game of ripe ego, ripe I, unripe I. Convert this unripe I into ripe I. This one and only one God is the knownest of the known. The term is to know, vijnana. Gya. Gya means to know. And from Gya, many other words are formed. What is worth knowing? In Mundaka Upanishad, we have a beautiful mantra where it says, what is that knowing which everything else is known? The answer is Brahman. Here's the one thing we see everywhere. See, this is a very, very interesting thing according to Vedanta, because other than Vedanta, no other system puts things so clearly that there's only God, nothing else exists other than God. Those of you who are more interested in knowing about it can listen to our Mandukya Karika talks. There's only God. And a portion of it, an extremely small portion of it, for whatever reason, is known as divine Maya, appears as the universe. What appears as the universe is truly, truly God. And it is truly an appearance only, not real. My body, your body. Whether you glorify your body or you do indulge in body shaming, it's all part of the universe. But the universe itself is God, appearing as the universe. So you have two realities working simultaneously. In this universe, I mean, in this creation. In this creation, you have two realities. One, reality and their appearance. Reality is of God, I. Appearance is of the universe. And in this appearance, Avinivesh plays a very crucial role. Like if you strike at a stone, at a piece of used stone, even it strikes back according to Newton's third law of motion. It tries to protect itself, doesn't want to break. And beyond universe is the single reality of God. But actually, there's only one reality at all times. Even right now, when we are talking, see, I'm reading out from Inspire Talks, trying to explain it from standpoint of my understanding with my limited intellect, because I'm not an enlightened person. And since I'm not an enlightened person, my words will always be colored by my understanding. Intellect being limited, mind being limited, my explanations will always be limited. Now, when I am explaining Swami Vivekananda, maybe I'm limiting him. Quite possible. But not limiting him to the extent of being ignorant. No, not even that. All these things, all these things boil down to a very simple thing. Whatever other religions may preach, whatever different sects may preach, like if you listen to the Orthodox, the Vaishnavas, they will tell you something else. If you listen to Shaktas, worshippers of Shakti, they will say something else. But Vedanta, well, I belong to the school of Vedanta, so naturally I'll speak Vedanta only. God alone exists, nothing else. And whenever there is transformation, whole thing doesn't get transformed. And that's why, according to the Bible, God said, let there be a light, and there was light. That means there was creation. Creation was of the universe. And this the huge universe that our physicists have not yet succeeded in mapping, not possible to map because there are many more universes. Not millions and billions, but infinite. These are like speck. They are like speck in the infinity of the ocean of God. That should give you some idea of who we are, what we are doing. Those listening to our talks, I believe, I am sure every one of you must have seen an ocean. And if you have not seen an ocean, you might have seen a body of water, say, let's say, pond. Think of a very large pond. If you have not seen a large pond, just imagine a water body which is pretty huge, maybe 2-3 kilometers long. Those of you who have seen an ocean, you would know. And just imagine there is a small speck, small water molecule, or let's say a water drop. This water drop is like the universe, seen and unseen, compared to the infinity of God. If God is like that huge body of water, this small drop of water is like the universe. And in that small water, think of where our galaxy is, and think where our solar system is, where our earth is, and where we are, what we are. And yet, me, I am actually that pond. Oh, my dear listeners, it should take your sleep away. It should take your sleep away. Too much of happiness takes your sleep away. Too much of sadness takes your sleep away. And I believe that too much of knowledge also takes your sleep away. The kind of knowledge that's coming out from these inspired talks, this will take your sleep away. If it's not taking your sleep away, there's something wrong with your understanding. I'm joking only. All know their own self, all know I am, even animals, which we explained. All we know is the projection of the self. Actually, whatever we are seeing is just the projection of the self, what we explained just now. Teach this to the children, they can grasp it. Every religion has worshipped the self, even though unconsciously, because there is nothing else. Some time back, one lady from Bangladesh, belonging to some other religion, she wrote some comments criticizing my approach. Why should I be I have nothing against any of the religions. In fact, if I had, I wouldn't have written a book like The World of Religions, which is such an important work. I'm talking about the common understanding of people, and from that common understanding, how fanatics are growing. Now, these are not my words, Swamiji is saying, Swamiji, the person who knew truth. And he says, whatever God you may worship, and that's why Hindus are best placed to explain these things because we have all kinds of God. We have Kali, we have Shiva, and we have Vishnu, we have Brahma, we have Ram, we have Krishna, and we have any number of gods. Think of any aspect of the divine, think of any aspect of the infinite, we already have it. But what are you actually worshipping? Only the infinite, nothing else. And what is that infinite? I is the self. And this has been beautifully put by Advaita Vedanta as Aham Brahmasmi. I am that. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman. Brahman is all this. What you see? What you see in this world is actually there's a superficial appearance of Brahman. It's like ocean and the wave. You are looking at the waves. And because you are looking at the waves, you are letting go of the ocean. Now, when you worship, say, Mother Saraswati, when you worship whatever God belonging to whatever religion, whom are you worshipping? Self, Atman, Brahman. Atman is Brahman. There is no other God. Only that unfortunate that we are, wretched that we limit that self and that limited self becomes our God. There is this infinite self. We put three limitations on it. One becomes God, another becomes world, and becomes me. The same self, same self. Sri Ramakrishna used to say a beautiful example. He used to give a beautiful example like in villages, etc. In earlier times, nowadays, of course, these things are gone. So when somebody went for the marketing, in charge of the house, the mom, they used to run the house. They would take out coin and say, well, this is for the vegetables, and this one is for fish. People eat fish in Bengal. You know, some Vaishnavites have extreme aversion to this fish eating. God knows why. Where they got it, in which scripture it is said that you can't take fish and you can't take meat. God knows. I don't know where from they get it. None of our main scriptures, neither the Vedas talk like that, nor the Upanishads talk like that, nor Mahabharata talks like that, not Valmiki Ramayana talks like that, not Manusmriti talks like that, not Tantra likes talks like that. And yet here are some sects of the Vaishnavas creating their own ideas and criticizing people for eating fish and eating meat. God knows. So anyway, the idea was that they used to give some pies for fish, vegetables, and other things. So same money now has different stacks. This one for the vegetable, this one for fish, this one for spices, etc. And then that money used to be joint again. This is a secret behind creation, sustenance, and destruction. Self. It appears as three, and there is the fourth, the self itself, the infinite. Because when you worship God, when you pray to God, when you bow down before God, you are limiting God. You are actually worshipping false God. Do you have the courage to understand this thing? Do you have the intellect to understand this thing that every time you pray to God, actually you are creating a wall between yourself and God? The moment you create a wall between yourself and God, say for example, when I am worshipping Sri Ramakrishna, I am creating a wall, no doubt about it. What's the truth? Me and Sri Ramakrishna, they are one. So should I stop worshipping Sri Ramakrishna? Of course not. Because then you will have a greater wall of ignorance there. Thing is, you begin with this, you reach somewhere, and then from there you come back knowing very well that infinity is the truth, infinite is the truth. But because I am this world, I am in this world, and this world is a mere appearance. And because this is appearance, what we do, thinking everything to be real, these greats they do, knowing very well that it's all drama, it's all chimera. Nothing exists other than Atman. It's the same Atman that appears as three. Me, the world, and God. And God who is limited by our prayers, God who is limited by our bowing down, God who is limited by our scriptures, is a limited God, not the true self. Na idam yadidam upasate, as Kena Upanishad said, as Swami says, whom the ignorant worship. Whether you worship 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, it makes no difference. The fact remains that you are worshipping false God. But naturally you would ask, then should all religions be banned? Should all these worshipping should be banned? No, no, no. These are the essential steps that take you to that final infinity. This indecent clinging to life as we know it here is the source of all evil. So every evil is when this I in this world identifies itself too much with the body and with the world, and there is clinging because life itself is signified by and characterized by this clinging, avinivesh. It causes all this cheating and stealing. Whatever you find, all the evil that you find, why does a person run after a female and a female, whatever her feelings towards a man? Why? Why? Because there's avinivesh. You feel that without your partner, you are nothing. Without your lover, you are nothing. Without your husband, without your wife, you are nothing. It's all avinivesh, avinivesh, avinivesh. It makes money a god, and all vices and fears ensue. Have you seen how the world is worshipping money today? This money worship. India, which had never worshipped money. In fact, Vaishya, who were the regulators of wealth, they were placed third in the hierarchy, lower than valor and lower than knowledge. Today, they are supreme. If there is some country which has gone to the ruins or going to the ruins, it is India. From being the worshipper of the infinite, from being an admirer of knowledge, it has become a complete slave to money. Complete slave to money. Lakshmi, who had a secondary position in Hindu religion, not only compared to Narayan, compared to all the other gods and goddesses, she is the ruling goddess today. Value nothing material, do not cling to it. If you cling to nothing, not even life, then there is no fear. Bible is famous for telling that fear not, fear not. But why fear? Why people fear? We're clinging to something. You're clinging to your life, you're clinging to your money, you're clinging to your self-respect, you're clinging to 1,000 things. And that is the root cause of all your fear, all your suffering, all your miseries. He goes from death to death, who sees many in this world. This is from Katopnishan. Katopnishan talks are there on our channel. You can look at the playlist. There can be no physical death for us and no material death when we see that all is one. How can you die if you see that everything is one? So even if your head is chopped off, will you really be dying? No, you cannot, because everything is one. It really happens. It really happens. It really happens. Think of a sugar doll. And there's an elephant, this sugar doll. And you break the leg of that elephant. Does that elephant die? It becomes crippled? No, how does it? As sugar, it will always continue to be there, even if all its four legs are gone. All bodies are mine. So even body is eternal, because the trees, the animals, the sun, the moon, the universe itself is my body. Even in body form, even in the physical form, you're infinite, because you have identified yourself with everything. Then how can it die? Every mind, every thought is mine. Then how can death come? The self is never born and never dies. When we realize this, all doubts vanish. Doubts will vanish only when you realize, by reading scriptures, by listening to talks, nothing will happen. I am, I know, I love. I am Sat, I know, Chit, I love, Ananda, Satchidananda. I am, I know, I love. Never let these three feelings go away from you. I am, I know, I love. This can never be without it. Don't. There is no hunger for all that is eaten by me. There can be no hunger. Anyone eating is I am eating. If a hair falls out, we do not think we die. So if one body dies, it's about a hair falling. If your hair falls, you don't say you are dead. It's nothing. Just like that, if a body falls, why do you worry? So, well, we'll continue with this discussion next time. Thank you so much